Gay marriage was a big issue in the 2004 campaign, with President Bush and Vice President Cheney vowing to push a constitutional amendment to ban the practice. But in the last 2 weeks, it almost seems to have become old news. First, the Iowa Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage in that heartland state, and days ago, Vermont lawmakers brushed off a veto by the Republican governor in becoming the first state to adopt gay marriage through legislation. But here's the really interesting part. This has not caused an explosion of press coverage. A handful of primetime cable news shows debated the issue for one day at least, none of them on Fox News.
The country waited 232 years for the first 2 U.S. states to recognize gay marriage. Now we've got 2 more states in the space of a week.
A lot of people who were against gay marriage when it happened in California were saying, well, it's those liberal activist judges in California. You can't really say that about this court in Iowa, though, can you?
At least in terms of generational issues, most people of my generation and Harold's generation see nothing wrong with gay marriage.
Why has the media reaction been so muted? I spoke earlier with 2 commentators, one gay, one straight, on opposite sides of the marriage question. Joining us now here in Washington, John Aravosis, founder of AmericaBlog.com. And in Los Angeles, Dennis Prager, nationally syndicated radio talk show host, columnist, and author most recently of Happiness is a Serious Problem. John Aravosis, the news of this has certainly been covered, but most of the primetime shows have stayed away. No debates on Fox, no parade of right-wingers coming in to denounce this. Why is that?
I think America's bored of the topic a little bit, in the sense that this is, what, the 4th or 5th state we've now had gay marriage legalized, if you count California. There's only so many news stories you can do showing guys in tuxes and what does it really mean, and will the world fall apart if the locust is going to come and swarm us? If there were locusts, there would be news. But honestly, it's funny, I predicted about a year ago on your show that if California got repealed, gay marriage in California, yes, the media would go crazy on that story, and they did.
Right.
But the point is, that's news.
Let me bring it back to this week. Yeah. We had Vermont, the first state to actually do this through elected representatives. CBS Evening News, ABC's World News, nothing at all. 3 sentences on NBC Nightly News. Is John right that the legalization in previous states, such as Massachusetts and Connecticut, have somehow convinced the media that this is not a current, pressing news issue?
Asking me?
I'm asking you, Dennis.
Yeah. Look, this is a real good question you're posing. I don't think that the press covers always what's most important. Because honestly, on whatever side you're on, I can't think, frankly, of a more important issue, even including the economy, than the definition of marriage. So this is really, to me, somewhat of an indictment of the news media and their priorities. This is big. You don't get bigger than the redefining of the most important civilian or civil and social institution that we have. And so your question is a legit one, and I think it reflects poorly on the media.
Do you think, Dennis Prager, that the coverage has been somewhat muted also because journalists are supportive of gay marriage? They don't come out and say so. It's our job to be objective, but they don't view this as a threat or as a bad thing, the way you do and the way some Americans do.
Well, that's right. I think that that's a very fair analysis. It's almost as if one were to declare that rain is wet. Why cover it? It's so obviously the correct thing to do, and so that is a factor as well.
See, but that's, not really true either. I'm sorry, but if the media were pro-gay or so crazily pro-gay, then they would be reporting the story as, oh my God, look, these great civil rights victories again. Let's do a whole week show on how wonderful the gays are. But one other point, though. I appreciate Dennis saying that to him this is the most important issue. I think to most Americans, whether or not we go into another Great Depression and whether or not I keep my job this year and can afford my mortgage, I'm sorry. First I pay my mortgage and I eat, then I worry about the neighbor down the street.
But the interesting thing, John, that's a fair point. But let me tell you, I've been covering this. I testified for DOMA at Congress, so I've been in this for many years.
I've too.
I have been told from the beginning, John and Howard, from the beginning, this is no big deal. Americans are considering other things. When the economy was stupendous, I was told that this was of secondary importance.
Well, but maybe
so I don't buy the notion that it's the economy now that is dwarfing this.
Let me bring it back to the media coverage, John. I'll go back to Dennis and ask you this question. My theory is that when we had the legalization briefly in California, more permanently, as I said, in Massachusetts and Connecticut, you had a lot of images on TV of pictures of happy couples, including older women, and I think maybe that changed the media perception because they didn't seem particularly threatening to anyone.
it wasn't just the media perception, it's a matter of the public perception. How many times can you show the same photo over and over again on a TV show or in an AP story? It's not news anymore, Howie. I can't show you the same photo. I'm a photographer. Once I show you the same photo 10 times, you're going to say, John, give me a new photo.
Dennis,
what you're saying, John, really doesn't contradict what I'm saying, in that if there isn't drama to be shown, television news doesn't cover it.
Well,
I agree with you. If it bleeds, it leads, and nothing is bleeding. But it is the most important story.
But it's
I don't
not.
think
the G20 was the most important story last week, Howie.
No. It was the most covered. I'm sorry. I think the definition. Listen, this is a matter of opinion.
Yeah, of course.
I, of course, think the economy is central. But even when the economy was doing well, people did not understand the gravity of the issue of redefining marriage.
And I just disagree with you. I think the majority of Americans think the economy is more important.
John Arvosis,
I agree.
Recent polls, CBS poll, 33% support gay marriage. CNN poll had it at 44%. A lot of Democrats oppose gay marriage. President Obama is not in favor of gay marriage. I think the news stories have dutifully quoted opponents, but it doesn't seem to me like they reflect the controversy that's still out there with ordinary Americans, leaving aside the pundits.
You did not cite me a controversy. You told me that when asked, are Americans in favor or opposed to gay marriage? What you didn't get into was how strongly do they feel about this. I think there is a segment of the population, a segment of conservatives on the far right, that are incensed about gay marriage, just like abortion. It is their #1 issue. I think for most Americans, they may have an opinion on it, but it's not really strong. And it's so that if you really push below the surface, they go, you know what, I don't care. I don't like it, but I don't care.
I don't. There we disagree, John. I think that most Americans who do want marriage defined as it always has been have simply given up on their ability to influence courts which have taken it out of their hands, or legislatures which have taken it out of their hands. That's the problem, and I understand that giving up, there's nothing we can do.
I know, we're
even though, look at California. We voted in California,
let me jump in,
and it didn't matter.
We're down to our last minute. Dennis Prager, is there a hint, in your view, a whiff perhaps, in the coverage that if you oppose gay marriage, you're kind of bigoted?
Whiff? You have to spend most of your time saying you're not homophobic, you're not like a racist. Right now, opposition to redefining marriage is considered the moral equivalent of opposition to racial integration.
Well, let me get John an answer.
I mean, of course it is, but the point is that the top story in America right now is the G20 summit and Obama and not going into a depression. And anybody who thinks the top story in America is gay marriage is off their rocker. And I'll let your audience decide, but I know 80% of them are going, that guy's right. The economy is the issue.
I think we are more likely to survive economically than we are the redefinition of marriage.
I know you are. That's why I love you, Dennis.
Dennis Prager, John Arvosis, thanks very much for joining us this morning.